The ship drifted between stars in calm silence before the fear began. It was a large civilian transport carrying many species across the border systems. Families slept. Workers rested. Lights glowed softly along the curved halls. Nothing felt dangerous. Then a scream broke the quiet. The scream came from the food corridor near the central gardens. A group of passengers rushed back in panic. Security alarms sounded once, then twice. People shouted in many languages. Some ran, some froze. Within moments, the word spread through the ship like fire. Someone had been attacked. The attacker was an alien female named Era. She was not large, not armed, and not known as a violent species. Yet 3 passengers lay injured on the floor. All had deep bite marks on their arms and shoulders. Blood stained the smooth white panels. Medics rushed in wearing sealed gear. Security surrounded Era with stun barriers. Era stood still in the center of the corridor. Her breathing was fast. Her eyes moved wildly, not in anger but in fear. She made sharp clicking sounds from her throat, a sign of distress in her species. Still, the sight of her sharp teeth made people step back. The injured passengers were taken away. No one had died, but the fear did not fade. Rumors filled the ship within minutes. Some said she went mad. Others said her species hunted travelers. A few demanded she be thrown out of the airlock. Era was restrained and taken to an isolation room near the security wing. The corridor was sealed. The garden lights dimmed, as if the ship itself wished to hide what had happened. Among the crowd stood a human man named Jizu. He had been sitting alone with a drink when the scream echoed. He did not run. He followed at a distance, watching carefully. Jizu was not tall or strong. He worked as a maintenance analyst, quiet and often unnoticed. Yet his eyes stayed calm, while others shook. He saw the bite marks. He saw the fear in Era's posture. He noticed that she did not try to flee even when surrounded. Most passengers saw a monster. Jisu saw confusion. Security officers pushed everyone back. A Korean female crew member named Hana raised her voice, telling people to return to their quarters. Her hands trembled despite her firm tone. Another crew member, Dayan, helped guide the injured stretchers away. Whispers followed Jisu as he turned to leave. People avoided his path as if fear itself could spread. The ship's internal network flashed warnings. Stay in assigned areas. Avoid contact. Investigation underway. Ira sat alone in the isolation room. The walls were transparent energy fields. She curled her body inward, arms wrapped tight. Her species felt overload through light and sound. The corridor lighting had shifted without warning earlier that cycle. The colors had sharpened. The hum of engines had risen. Her mind had flooded with signals. When hands grabbed her in confusion, instinct had taken control. No one asked her that hours passed. Security reports were filed. Medical scans were taken from the injured passengers. None were in danger. Still fear ruled the ship. Food service halted. Children cried in locked cabins. Different species argued over punishment. A council meeting was called. Representatives from major passenger groups gathered in a sealed chamber. Holograms flickered as voices clashed. Some demanded strict action. Others urged patience. Most spoke from fear. Jisu was not invited. He listened from a public terminal outside the chamber. He read the medical notes released to the network. He noticed something strange. The bite wounds showed signs of chemical interaction. Not damage alone. He requested access to speak with security. Hana met him outside the isolation wing. Her eyes were tired. She folded her arms as he explained his concern. She told him it was dangerous. She told him humans were not trained for alien psychology. She told him 3 people had been bitten. Jisu answered calmly. He said 3 people were alive. He said fear was growing faster than facts. He said someone needed to listen. Hannah hesitated. She looked through the energy field at Era, who sat silent and shaking. Diane joined them, her face pale. Neither trusted the situation, but protocol allowed for limited civilian mediation under supervision. Jisoo was given a translator unit and a safety barrier. When he entered the isolation room, Era flinched. Her eyes locked onto him. Her muscles tightened, ready for pain or restraint. She did not understand why a human stood before her without anger. Jisoo sat down slowly on the floor, keeping distance. He lowered his eyes, a human sign of non-threat. The translator hummed softly. He spoke in a steady voice. He said his name. He said he was not there to hurt her. He said the ship was afraid. Era did not answer at first. Her breathing slowed slightly. The clicking sounds faded. She tilted her head, trying to read him. Humans were strange, fragile, loud, yet this one felt different. Outside the room, guards watched closely. Some mocked the attempt. Others waited for violence. Era finally spoke. Her voice was low and broken. She said she did not want to hurt anyone. She said the light burned her thoughts. She said she reacted too late. Jisoo listened. For the first time since the incident, fear loosened its grip on one small corner of the ship. But beyond the walls, panic still ruled. The council had not decided her fate. Passengers still demanded safety. The ship continued through the dark, carrying both terror and a fragile chance for understanding. The next day, the ship moved slowly through the empty expanse of space. Passengers stayed in their cabins. Hallways were quieter than usual. Era remained in isolation, sitting in a corner of the energy field room. Her posture was tense, but her breathing was more steady than before. She had begun to understand the humans through Jisoo's calm presence. Though trust was far from complete, Jisoo returned with the translator unit, keeping careful distance. He had to convince the security officers to allow longer sessions. Hannah shook her head, saying that the ship could not risk another incident. Diane stood by silently, uncertain if any human could truly reach an alien's mind in this situation. Inside the room, Jisoo spoke slowly, using simple words and hand gestures. He wanted to show patience. Era watched every movement. She twitched when the lights shifted, her species sensitive to small changes. Jisoo noticed. He moved his hands calmly, showing no sudden motion. She seemed to relax in response. "Why did you bite them?" he asked, keeping his tone neutral. Era made clicking sounds and showed the marks on her hands. Through the translator, she explained that her mind had flooded with information. The lights, the sounds, the vibrations of the ship, everything came at once. Her body reacted before her mind could think. It was a defensive action, not anger. Jisoo nodded. He had read about her species in the ship database. High-gravity worlds had forced them to develop extreme reflexes. Physical contact often had layered meaning. Misunderstandings could appear violent to other species. He told her that humans also sometimes reacted without thinking, and fear made things worse. Outside, passengers still whispered. Rumors continued to spread. Some thought she was dangerous. Others worried about themselves. Still, the ship's official channels had yet to give a clear statement. Most people preferred to stay in their cabins and avoid the corridor where the incident happened. Jisoo tried to explain her behavior to Hannah and Daeon during breaks. He told them it was not malicious. He told them that she was frightened and that human intervention could help calm her. Hannah crossed her arms and shook her head. "Even if you believe her, passengers will not," she said. "One more bite, and it is over for all of us." Diane nodded silently. She had seen Jisoo with Era. Something about the human's calm voice seemed to reach her, but trust was still fragile. Both crew members agreed to monitor every session. Jisoo understood and accepted the safety rules. Era's reactions improved slowly. She learned to anticipate the changes in the environment. The lighting shifted gradually. The hum of engines softened. Jisoo helped her by showing gentle gestures and speaking softly. She began to respond with clicks that seemed less urgent and more like words. One day, a minor alarm went off in the engineering section. The lights flickered sharply. Era stiffened, her eyes wide. Jisoo noticed and held up a hand. He stayed calm, steady. He whispered through the translator, "It is okay. I see it. I will help." Her body relaxed slightly. She emitted soft clicks in response, almost like relief. Jisoo realized that her instinctive reactions were powerful and could be guided rather than punished. If someone understood the signals, accidents could be avoided. Meanwhile, the passengers were still fearful. Families kept children close. A Korean man named Hyun-soo spoke to the council, demanding that Era be removed from the ship immediately. Others supported him. The fear was palpable, and the majority of passengers had no interest in explanations. Jisoo tried to balance his empathy with patience. He reported back to the security team and suggested controlled observation periods. Hannah finally allowed it, though reluctantly. She understood that Jiu's human approach was unusual but effective. Diane monitored everything, noting that Era's stress decreased during the sessions. Over several cycles, the bond slowly grew. Era began to anticipate human gestures. She realized that Jisoo did not react to fear or alarm with anger. He showed patience, attention, and understanding. These qualities were rare in the other passengers and even some crew. She responded with a tilt of her head, a soft click, and less rigid posture. One quiet evening, Jisoo sat close to the energy barrier. Era approached the center slowly. She paused, looking at him. Her fingers flexed nervously. He did not flinch. He spoke softly, explaining simple concepts about trust and fear. Era listened, her mind learning that humans could be calm even when others panicked. Outside, the ship's council debated her fate. Many passengers demanded punishment. Some representatives argued for observation. No one considered the possibility of cooperation or understanding. Jisoo realized that fear drove the ship more than logic. Still, he continued quietly, hoping to bridge the gap. A small event tested their progress. The ship's gravity fluctuated briefly. Era immediately warned Jisoo, clicking and gesturing toward the engineering panel. He noticed the shift, and their quick response prevented minor injuries. Other passengers saw only that she had alerted the human. They did not understand the instinctive reasoning that could save lives. That night, Era sat still near the window, looking at the stars beyond the energy field. Jisoo sat across from her, silent. Trust had not fully formed, but understanding had begun. It was fragile, delicate, and rare on the ship where fear controlled the majority of hearts. Even in isolation, there was hope. A single human had chosen to listen rather than run. A single alien had learned to calm instinct with guidance. Outside the room, the passengers remained afraid. Inside, a new bridge was forming between species, built with patience and empathy. The ship continued its journey through darkness, carrying both fear and a small glimmer of trust. Days passed slowly as the ship sailed through the stars. Era's isolation continued, but her sessions with Jisoo became longer and calmer. She no longer flinched at every light change or engine hum. Instead, she focused on him and the simple words he used to explain the world around her. Jisoo realized that patience and quiet attention were teaching her the human way of trust. Inside the isolation room, Era stretched her limbs carefully. The energy barriers allowed her to move freely, yet she remained aware of the human presence. Jisoo had begun to understand her species more deeply. High gravity had built strength, but also sensitivity. Every movement carried meaning. Every touch had a weight beyond human experience. Era's bites were not malicious. They were instinct, survival, reaction before thought. Jisoo explained human ways of managing fear. He told her about people who helped each other, even when they were afraid. He shared simple stories of humans guiding each other through dangerous storms, through fire, through sickness. Era listened with clicks and gestures, absorbing what she could. Communication did not need anger or force. Understanding could create calm. Outside the room, the passengers still whispered. A few glanced at the isolation barrier, curious, fearful, uncertain. Many avoided the area entirely. Crew members like Hana and Daeon remained cautious, monitoring every session. They observed that Era's stress signals decreased when Jisoo was present. Yet no one else had the patience to stay nearby long enough to see it. Jisoo also learned from Era. He realized that her senses were sharper than human ones. She noticed energy shifts, vibrations, and subtle sounds invisible to the average human ear. One afternoon, the ship's power systems fluctuated slightly. Era's eyes widened. She clicked rapidly, pointing toward the engineering panel. Jisoo recognized the urgency and signaled to the crew. The minor fluctuation was corrected before anyone noticed. Era had saved a small section from damage with her instinct, and only a human had trusted her enough to listen. During this period, Jisoo introduced Era to human habits. He showed her gestures that meant calm, ways to signal understanding, even how to relax when overwhelmed. Era mimicked slowly, her body learning to respond to guidance. The relationship grew from fear to a cautious partnership. Still, Era could not fully trust the others. She had been judged, feared, and restrained. The passengers' murmurs reinforced her caution. One evening, Jisoo spoke about teamwork. He explained how humans often work together to solve problems, even if they did not fully understand each other at first. He said trust needed patience. Era tilted her head and made soft clicks. She understood partially. In her species, cooperation came from instinct, but guidance from another mind was unusual. The ship's council continued debates. They had received reports of Era's behavior improving under Jisoo's supervision, but fear ruled the official response. Representatives argued that her instinct was too dangerous to allow free contact. Passengers demanded her removal. Yet the emergency earlier had shown that instinct guided by understanding could be valuable. No one except Jisoo could see it clearly. One quiet moment, Jisoo sat near the barrier while Era moved closer than ever before. He spoke softly, pointing at small star patterns outside the window. Era watched, her mind absorbing calm signals. She clicked once, almost like a laugh. Jisoo smiled. It was a small victory, but it represented understanding across worlds. The relationship began to influence others in subtle ways. Some crew members started noticing changes in Era's body language. When she clicked at instructions, she did so without fear. When the lights shifted, she did not panic immediately, but waited for Jisoo's calm gesture. Even Hana and Daeon began to relax slightly during these supervised moments, though they did not fully trust her. One afternoon, a minor system alert sounded in the engineering sector. Era's reaction was immediate. She signaled with clicks and gestures to Jisoo, indicating the danger faster than human sensors could detect. Jisoo called the engineers. They followed his directions, corrected the issue, and prevented a cascade of small failures. Most passengers were unaware of the quiet crisis. Only a human had recognized her instinct and trusted her warning. Through this, Era began to understand the human concept of choice. Instinct could still act, but guidance and trust could reshape reactions. She learned that humans did not always react with fear or aggression. Some, like Jisoo, responded with patience, observation, and reasoning. That knowledge began to change her perception of the crew and passengers. Even at night, when the ship was quiet and lights dim, Era sometimes approached the barrier alone. She would sit, listen to Jisu's voice, and watch the stars. He spoke softly, telling stories of humans working together through danger and conflict. Era absorbed calmness in these words. Her clicks were fewer, gentler, showing reduced stress. She was learning not to fear before understanding. Meanwhile, the passengers continued their fear-driven discussions. Some believed that the alien would strike again. Others hoped that she would be removed before more harm occurred. Only a few noticed that the minor emergencies were being prevented thanks to her instincts. They did not understand that a single human had bridged the gap between instinctive alien behavior and safety for all. By the end of this period, the pattern was clear. Era's instincts were strong and potentially dangerous. Left unchecked, they could cause panic. Yet guided by human calm and understanding, those same instincts became a shield for the ship. Fear still ruled outside the barrier, but inside, a new understanding began to form. Jisu knew it was only the beginning. Era could save lives if she could be trusted, if she could learn to read calm guidance. He also knew that most humans were not ready to accept this. Fear was stronger than reason for many. Still, he sat with her daily, showing patience, quiet understanding, and empathy. The bond formed slowly, built one gesture at a time. Era's body relaxed more than it ever had since the first incident. Her mind, once flooded by fear and overstimulation, began to see structure in human calm. She began to anticipate gestures, notice subtle cues, and respond without panic. A small bridge was forming between instinct and reasoning, between fear and understanding. Outside, the passengers remained afraid. Inside, the alien learned that not all humans were ruled by fear. One human could show patience. One human could guide instinct. One human could build understanding where others only saw danger. The ship continued its journey through space, carrying a fragile hope that human empathy could teach even the strongest instincts to act with care. The ship had entered a long stretch between star systems. Most passengers stayed in their cabins, afraid to move. Era remained in isolation, but her behavior had changed significantly. She no longer flinched at every minor disturbance. Jisu continued his sessions, teaching her patience and human calm. They had formed a bond that grew with each quiet moment. That calm was tested one cycle when a critical emergency struck. The ship's power systems began to fluctuate violently. Life support in several sections was in danger. Alarms rang through corridors. Passengers panicked. Crew members shouted orders, but the situation was chaotic. Sensors reported multiple failures, and the automatic systems were struggling to stabilize. Era reacted immediately. She clicked rapidly, her body moving instinctively toward the source of danger. She could sense the vibrations and minor energy shifts before the sensors fully detected them. Her instincts had always been fast, but this time someone could understand them. Jisu was there. He saw her movements and recognized the urgency in her behavior. He stood between her and the cautious crew, raising his hands to signal calm. "Trust her," he said firmly. "She can help." The crew hesitated. Memories of the previous incident surfaced. 3 passengers had been bitten. Fear controlled their minds. Some argued, demanding that she be restrained. But Jisu insisted. He spoke calmly to Sunny, a crew member monitoring the power systems, and to Yuna, another engineer. Together, they created a path for Era to act without harming anyone. Era moved swiftly. She adjusted panels, pressed controls, and used her strength to stabilize components that were too heavy or delicate for humans. Her instincts guided her, but she also remembered Jisu's instructions. She worked methodically, preventing further damage. The energy surges that could have caused injuries were stopped by her quick intervention. In the midst of the chaos, the injured passengers from the earlier bite incident were revealed to have benefited unexpectedly. The bites had introduced a chemical reaction that neutralized minor toxins they were unknowingly exposed to from the ship's failing systems. They were alive, healthier than before the emergency. Most people would never connect this to Era's instinctive actions, but Jisoo recognized the significance. As the emergency progressed, passengers watched from locked sections, fearful and anxious. Crew members acted cautiously, following Jisoo's guidance. Era moved confidently within her controlled space, guided by his calm presence. The bridge between instinct and understanding became apparent. One human had trusted an alien when all others feared. When the crisis ended, the ship's power stabilized. Life support returned to normal. Medics confirmed no casualties. Engineers reported that Era's intervention prevented widespread failures. The passengers were stunned. They had expected disaster. Instead, the quiet strength of one alien, guided by a human, had saved hundreds of lives. Jisoo knelt beside her as she sat down, exhausted but alert. He spoke softly through the translator, praising her calm and skill. Era clicked once, acknowledging him. The connection between them had shifted from fear and reaction to cooperation and mutual respect. In that moment, the human capacity for trust had empowered instinct, turning potential disaster into survival. Outside, passengers were slowly realizing the truth. Some whispered among themselves. Others looked at the security screens, seeing Era's calm and precise actions. The council convened again, this time in emergency mode. Reports were delivered with new context. Era had not attacked. Era had not acted out of malice. Era had acted to preserve life. Hana and Dayan observed the aftermath. Both had been skeptical of Jisoo's approach. Now they saw that his patience, understanding, and willingness to trust had made the difference. Crew procedures were revised slightly to allow for human-mediated alien interventions in emergencies. It was a small change, but it acknowledged that fear alone could not control complex situations. Era's posture relaxed further. She moved with confidence within the safe space, clicking softly. She had learned that humans could provide calm guidance, and she had seen that patience could amplify instinct rather than suppress it. Trust, fragile and new, had grown in the middle of a life-threatening event. Jisoo continued to sit nearby. He knew that the passengers outside were still afraid. Most would not understand the subtle interplay of instinct and calm reasoning. But he also knew that one human's willingness to approach rather than run could change outcomes where fear dominated. The lesson was clear. Patience and trust could save lives in ways that force alone could not. Even after the emergency, Era remained in isolation, but her fear had lessened. She now approached Jisoo voluntarily, responding to his gestures and commands. The energy barriers were no longer a symbol of punishment, but a protective measure. Their quiet partnership became a model for how humans could guide instincts without dominance or fear. As the ship continued through the void, the balance between fear and trust shifted. Outside the room, panic and prejudice still lingered among passengers. Inside, an alien had learned human ways of calm and reasoning. A human had shown that trust could transform instinct. Together, they had prevented disaster and preserved life. The journey through space continued, carrying both the weight of fear and the promise of understanding. Era and Jisoo had demonstrated that even in the darkest moments, the strength of humanity lay not in force, but in patience, empathy, and the ability to trust when others were afraid. The days after the emergency were quiet, but tense. Passengers spoke in hushed tones. Most remained in their cabins, still afraid of Era, still unsure of the alien and her abilities. The council reviewed reports. Security documented every action. Medics confirmed the health of all passengers. Yet the shadow of fear lingered inside the isolation room. Era sat calmly near the barrier. Her posture was relaxed compared to the first incident. Jisoo entered, his calm presence already familiar to her. He spoke softly, explaining that the ship was safe for now. Era clicked in response, a sound that had become a way for her to communicate trust and understanding. Jisoo spent time reviewing the ship's systems with Era. He explained human methods for problem-solving, teamwork, and communication. Era listened carefully. She absorbed the patterns of calm, the signs that indicated safety, and the gestures that represented cooperation. The lessons were simple but powerful. Each session reinforced the connection between instinct and guidance. Outside the room, passengers began noticing the subtle changes. Some observed that Era's behavior had become controlled, purposeful, and even helpful. A few spoke cautiously to crew members, asking for explanations. Crew members like Hana and Daeon reported that under Jisoo's supervision, Era no longer posed a threat. Observers were reassured, though fear remained for many. The council convened to make a final decision. Representatives from various species discussed her future. Some argued she must be removed. Others noted that the emergency had demonstrated the value of her instincts when guided. Jisoo presented his observations calmly. He spoke about trust, patience, and the ability of humans to guide instincts effectively. His testimony emphasized that Era's actions had preserved life and demonstrated cooperation. Investigators confirmed the facts. Era had acted instinctively, but the instincts were aligned with preservation, not harm. The initial bites were a misunderstanding, caused by sensory overload rather than malice. No one was injured fatally. The passenger she had bitten earlier had recovered, and the minor chemical effect had prevented additional health issues. Fear and rumor were now weighed against factual evidence. The council agreed to revise safety and cultural protocols. Interspecies communication procedures were updated to include human-guided alien interaction in controlled environments. The change was small but significant. It acknowledged that understanding could replace fear in managing instinctive behaviors. Jisoo's role was recognized officially, demonstrating the human capacity to mediate and guide effectively. Era's life changed after the decision. She was no longer restrained constantly, but remained in the supervised area as part of cultural exchange and education. She could move freely under observation, continuing her bond with Jisoo. Their partnership became a model of trust. Era learned that humans could provide calm guidance and that cooperation could replace fear. Jisoo demonstrated that patience and understanding were as powerful as force. Passengers gradually adjusted. Many still whispered, but some began to approach with questions. They asked about the alien species, her instincts, and how Jisoo had guided her. The ship became a small community where observation and learning replaced some fear. Not everyone understood, but the first steps were taken toward broader awareness. Era spent her days with Jisoo, exploring both the ship and human methods of communication. They watched stars from observation windows, spoke softly, and exchanged clicks and gestures. She learned human patience, reasoning, and calmness. Jisoo learned from her instincts, her speed, and her perception of the world. Together, they formed a partnership built on mutual understanding and respect. The passengers, watching from their cabins, began to realize a truth. Fear had ruled before, but guidance could change outcomes. A single human had approached when others fled. A single alien had reacted instinctively, but learned calm and control through trust. The event proved that cooperation, understanding, and patience could overcome panic, danger, and misunderstanding. Jisoo reflected on the journey. He thought about how easily fear could dominate. He thought about the small moments when calm voice, careful gestures, and observation could change everything. Era's survival and the ship's safety were a direct result of human empathy and willingness to trust. It was a reminder that true strength lay not in force, but in reasoning, patience, and guidance. As the ship sailed into deeper space, Era and Jesu sat near a window, looking at the stars. Their journey had been marked by fear, misunderstanding, and instinct. Yet it ended with knowledge, trust, and mutual respect. The alien had learned to act with guidance. The human had learned the power of patience. Together, they had shown that humanity's strength was not in domination, but in understanding when others were afraid. The stars stretched endlessly beyond them. The passengers still faced fear and uncertainty. But in one quiet room, one human and one alien had created a small haven of cooperation, empathy, and shared purpose. The lesson of the journey was clear. When fear dominates, calm understanding can change everything. Trust and patience, even from one individual, could reshape instinct and prevent disaster. The ship continued through the darkness, carrying both caution and hope, a testament to the human ability to guide and understand even the strongest instincts in the universe.